Welcome back to LA Fishguys. We're again in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, home of the Grand Tetons, and we're here finishing a 280-gallon coral reef tank. Come on with us, and we'll show you how we're doing it.
We've got majority of that 500 pounds of Indonesian live rock placed in the new 280-gallon coral reef tank now, and we're down to the point where we're getting into the finer details.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
So I'm going to fill this in and bring it up to this height, or I just want to fill it out at the same one. So cover right there, I'm going to keep it there, here, and then walk out. Try construction, yeah, something like that, flat, I don't know, whatever. That's pretty cool. And so, do I fill in here? No. So I'm going to go here and that's kind of, okay, so now we're at the point of the end. You want to take out pieces? You want to use the longer stuff. I'll take it, so this lower is a little higher. Well, just a couple pieces take out, it look cool. Yeah, that's how
So after some revisioning and some personal input, we've come up with a very specific design. You can see here that all of that branching rock does seem to interlace with each other. It kind of locks itself together. So we've got this large mound in the tank that's viewed from 3 different sides. And you can see there's a relatively sheer face on both sides, left and right, with a fairly flat spot on top. And of course, the awesome cave. And this cave has 3 entrances. One on the front, one on the left side, and one on the right side. This ought to end up being pretty cool because fish like caves and aquarium hobbyists like caves too.
So part of our 500 pounds of live rock came a lot of small rubble, small branching pieces. We're going to use this to line the bottom edge of our rock foundation, just to give it a little additional support. And then once we've got that in there in position, we'll take and rinse out some sand, and then we'll pour in the sand this afternoon. So now we're going to just start on these little pieces of rubble.
Great. Turn it out a little bit. Yeah, that's how we can.
So we just finished putting all the live rock into the tank, and I'm very happy that the new aquarium owner is very happy with the live rock work as well. We've taken all that small coral rubble and packed it down around the edges of the reef foundation. So now when we put the sand in, it'll push up against that. Instead of being such a stark difference between the two, there's a transition in there. So we're going to start rinsing the sand now. We'll give you a good look at the reef tank before we put the sand in, because once the sand goes in, even though we've rinsed it, it's going to be a little milky, and we probably won't be able to see the tank for the rest of the day.
So even though it's only 20 degrees outside, we still have to take the buckets of sand outside and rinse them out. Brrr. And so with the gravel well rinsed out, we're going to now put it into the tank a scoopful at a time. This will allow us to kind of direct where we want it to go. It'll also minimize the amount of dust, at least that gets stirred up in the water. So there are a number of approaches one can take as far as the substrate or sand at the bottom of a living coral reef tank. One would be nothing at all, a bare bottom tank. Pretty hard for debris to hide if there's nothing on the bottom for it to hide behind. The other would be a small thin layer, a next would be a thicker layer, and in some cases a really deep sand bed. But that's not what we're striving for. We just want to give the resemblance of the bottom of the ocean. 1 inch is enough. In our case, the amount of sand at the bottom is purely for looks. We're not attempting to achieve any biological or denitrification aspects. Just good looking bottom of the ocean.
And you can see here the protein skimmer's just now starting to produce some foam from the live rock. It'll take upwards of a week for the protein skimmer to officially break in, meaning it'll develop a slime coat on its inside that allows the proteins and enzymes to be driven out of the water, at least up into this collection cup. Our water level as a result of the addition of the sand and the live rock's a little high, so we'll drop that, but for all intents and purposes, our system is now running, and we've introduced the first batch of life into the tank. And so it's now becoming a living creature on its own. So that brings the end of Saturday's worth of work on the aquarium. As you can see, we've added the live rock to the tank. We've lined the edge of the rock with the coral rubble. We've got the sand into the system. That's not live sand, it's regular sand. We must have rinsed it out well enough because, as you can see, the water is pretty clear. So that ends today's episode. Come on back for more LA Fishguys.
Be sure to check out part 5 of LA Fishguys' Jackson Hole Wyoming reef tank as we prepare to put the metal halides into the lighting canopy and fix that water pump that's got the small leak. In the meantime, I think I'm going to take a little gander outside and just see how cold it actually is.